kutoka milimani, Bungani hadi pwani. ELO inasimama kwa sauti huru,
kwa uadilifu na haki, sisi tuko imara. Kenya mpya kwa matumaini ya dhati.
Kutoka kaskazini, kusini, mashariki na magharibi, tunajivunia Kenya, nchi ya matumaini. Kwa uadilifu na amani, sisi tunaimba kwa kusema ELO for credible, peaceful, free and fair elections.
Tunatoka kwa jamii, vikundi vya kidini na mashinani, sauti za wanyonge na sauti za wenye nguvu.
Hakuna aliyeachwa, sote ni sawa. ELO ni mwangaza wa mabadiliko ya haki. Kutoka kaskazini, kusini, mashariki na magharibi, tunajivunia Kenya, nchi ya matumaini. Kwa uadilifu na amani, sisi tunaimba kwa kusema ELO for credible, peaceful, free and fair elections.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Darubini Ya Uchaguzi podcast, your trusted lens into Kenya's electoral landscape. I am your host, Denis Njonge. So today, we'll be diving deep into one of the most critical, yet often overlooked pillars of our democracy, civic education. So in this episode, titled Building an Informed Voter, Uraia'S role in strengthening civic education in Kenya. We'll explore how civic literacy helps citizens not just vote, but vote wisely, engage meaningfully, and hold institutions accountable. To help me unpack this topic is a very special guest, the Executive Director of URAIA Trust, and I'll let him introduce himself. So, karibu sana Oliver.
Oh, thank you very much, everybody. It's my pleasure again being in this forum to help our listeners and viewers to understand the role of informed citizens in deepening our democracy. I'm Oliver Waindi, the Executive Director at URAIA Trust. Thank you.
So, Oliver, to start off, maybe you can tell the audience on URAIA's approach in civic education and how this has evolved over the years.
Well, we ought to understand first what civic education is all about, and it is basically the cornerstone of any democracy. And it basically means that we are the messengers out there who ask the 54 million Kenyans in Kenya to uphold their rights as citizens, but more importantly, to exercise their duties as well as Kenya. So everything about civic education is all about rights and responsibilities. What are the rights of Kenyans and what are the duties of Kenyans to ensure that the rights are upheld? And the cornerstone to everything that we do is the Constitution of Kenya. And we have been very central ever since the promulgation of the Constitution took place, permitting every sector, every county, and every hamlet and village with the gospel about civic education. Basically, just asking people to be the citizens that are envisaged in the Constitution, to do what is right, and to hold people accountable. And that is what we've done faithfully. And the only thing that has changed probably, and is changing as we grow, is the pedagogy. When we began, we were all about asking people to come and we discuss the Constitution and we tell them these are your rights and we tell them these are as well your responsibilities. But as time goes by and as technology improves as well, and from our analysis, again, we then appreciate that there is a need to be more agile in trying to remain relevant with the various constituents that we work with, so that we are still able to deliver the same information without losing its potency, and be able to use the evolving technology. So you find that over the past few years, we've now gone to virtual pedagogy as well. We are not negating the physical approach that we've had of physical interaction, but we are now trying to be much more hybrid, so that we are able to reach the hitherto unreachable. We are able to retain the constituents that we've had before, and also to reach people that we've not reached before, like the young people who are more into their phones and what have you. So we are trying to see how can we use this technology in a way that will help us to enhance our reach. So those have been the changes, but what has not changed, and probably will not change in a long time, is that we are 100% about the Constitution of Kenya in terms of the rights of the citizens and the duties of the citizens, and asking them to hold people accountable. And that, I think, is the cornerstone of our democracy, not just now, but going forward as well. Yeah.
So talking about the models that Urai'a use, maybe you can mention what makes this unique when it comes to reaching out to the grassroots and marginalized communities.
Well, Urai'a is basically a facilitator of the sector. In other words, very rarely do we go and do implementations ourselves. What we do is to work with people who know the constituents better, and then we support them. And that gives us a lot of leverage in terms of reaching hard to reach areas and hard to reach populations. So currently our footprint is in 47 counties out of 47 in the country. And what that means is that we are able to conduct civic education in Mandera, in Lamu, in Migori, in Turkana, in West Pokot without any issue. How do we do that? We do that by identifying partners that we can work with, and then we support them, not only financially, but as well with resources that, technical resources that enable them to then carry out this civic education. So we do civic education through our partners. Yeah, so that is what gives us a lot of, first of all, it's very unique because nobody else does that. And secondly, it enhances the reach. I always say in this sector that we are not in competition. So it's not like who does what best. It's a question of how do we all synergize so that as many Kenyans as possible get the gospel to make our country better. Yeah.
So just out of curiosity, is there a specific structure in Urai'a where those partners come in so that you guys can effectively support civic education?
I didn't get that right.
Or is there a specific structure where in Urai'a that allows for you for the partners for Urai'a to support civic education? Like, is there a structure in Urai'a?
Okay, what happens here is, for example, when you look at social accountability, and we basically look at health, education, we look at public finance, for example. What happens is when we have identified that we want to focus on public finance, we look at who has best technical ability to do this in terms of institutions. And then we then end up going to Budgeti Hub, because Budgeti Hub have got the technical expertise to actually execute this. So then what we do is then we develop a civic education program on public finance, and using budget hub, we are able to capacity build them to deliver that. So they then proceed to the field and then deliver that with their own networks. When we want to do something on election, then we work with ELOG, we work with IBC, we work with FIDA, depending on what aspect of election we are targeting. And then we work with them in trying to modify and come up with the right materials and proper support in terms of financial support, and then they're able to roll that out as a capacity building for civic education in that field. So that's what we do. There are very few cases, for example, where our staff, including myself, then go out and involve the whole country, depending on the media that I am in, so that they are able to get to understand my perspective and therefore our perspective in something very specific. So, for example, when we want to talk about Katiba Day, for example, over the past few years, I've been in the media trying to talk about the need to for the country to move from just having a constitution to living constitutionalism. So that's what we do, but it's in very rare cases. Otherwise, our strength is the strength of the partners that we work with, and that they're able to deliver that and be able to relay back the results that they get, which then help us to gauge the potency of what we do and how we do it.
So you mentioned that civic awareness is very vital in elections and the electoral processes. So how do you see civic awareness translating into better elections and better electoral preparedness?
Well, first and foremost, election is a duty of the citizens. So first and foremost, if you look at it from that perspective, not only is it a right, but it's almost like a duty as well, because it's not a must for people to vote in Kenya, but it is necessary for them to vote in Kenya. So for you to go out and educate them, that is civic awareness you are creating. And for you, in the current setup of things, for you to tell the young people that however much you throw stones and however much you are shot in the legs or on your head, nothing will change, because we are a democratic institution, we are a democratic country. And the only way you can change a democratic country is through the ballot. So you help the citizenry to understand the power of the ballot. And we go out there telling them that the ballot that you hold in your hand can make Kenya as great as South Korea, Japan, and Singapore, or can make us worse than the countries that surround us here. And so when they know that, that is really critical, number one. And number two, we can also flashback and tell them that one of the reasons our 2022 did not produce the kind of leaders that we wanted was that 28 million Kenyans were eligible to vote. 21 million took votes. It means that 7 million didn't take votes. And even 21 who took votes, only 14 million people voted. Now, we have 14 million people who are just watching Tom and Jerry. And that's what is affecting us today. So when we go out there and tell people, everybody, it is your duty to change this country. It is your duty to hold the president accountable, to hold your governor accountable, to hold your MCA, women's rep, governor, senator, and MP accountable. That is only possible if we educate them, first and foremost, to be able to partake of the electoral process. First, by getting the vote, and secondly, by voting. Now, as you may have noticed, again, the actual voting is just the end tail of an electoral process. An electoral process takes 5 years, educating people, helping them to understand why they ought to do what they ought to do, and trying to bring all that into the aspect of a bigger national goal, be it 2030 or be it annual goals, and then come the actual day, which is the ultimate point, also asking people to vote and vote correctly. So if it's color coding, we tell them green stands for what, brown stands for what, yellow stands for what. And now the role of our partners like ALOG will be to come on board and ensure that the process before, the process during, and the process after are all having integrity that meet the threshold expected of them.
Talking of collaborations, how URAIA has collaborated with ALOG in the past, right? As you have mentioned, how do you see civic education complementing election observation efforts? Maybe you can elaborate more on that.
How collaboration helps civic education?
Yeah, so how civic education complements election observation efforts? Yeah.
Well, remember, election observation is a technical skill, and every technical skill is learned. In other words, you will not just pick anybody else to come and observe an election. You must be capacity built to observe an election.
Yes.
So you are able to have parameters that you're going to consider in pre-election period. What is it that you are supposed to look at? And during the election, in that hall, what are you supposed to look at? And after that, what are you supposed to look at? So the parameters that ought to be capacity built in you. And therefore, I look at it from the perspective that civic education then must, out of necessity, embrace electoral observation as a critical subject, and which we actually have been very much involved in, helping people to understand what is it all about, because it is pointless to have an election every 5 years that leads us to war, that leads us to suspicion, that leads us to despondency, that leads us to hopelessness. We have to bring a stop to this, and we can only bring a stop to this if we do the right things before, during, and after every election. And so our civic education can only be useful if we translate what is really critical in terms of electoral observation into the entire module that we want to deliver to the Kenyans. So there is absolutely no gainsaying that electoral observation is a critical part of civic education. And it is actually a very central module of what we do insofar as electoral education is concerned.
So as we head to 2027, we are less than 2 years to, almost 2 years to the general election. So what civic education gaps exist and need to be addressed as we approach the election?
The gaps are massive, and the gaps really reflect the reality of our country. One is that we have not quite internalized as a country that civic education is important. Suffice to say that we've not even thought that education is important, let alone civic education. And you can tell it, I mean, from our budgetary priorities to the way we mismanage our education sector. And it's worrisome. Now, if you now think of civic education, first of all, is perceived very negatively by the powers that may be. And this is out of ignorance, because they think that you are agitating against the government, which is far from the truth, because our role is to actually complement what the government is doing by asking people to do the right things. And so the challenges that we have, of course, are one, we do not have very good political backing, which we ought to have. And number two, of course, we've got huge global donor architecture changing. And so what that means, therefore, is that there are less and less of resources coming in. And so what that means is that civic education is not, quote unquote, a very sexy thing to fundraise for. It's not like, for example, reproductive health, which touches on health, or refugees, which are evidently very easy to mobilize resources for. Civic education does not fall into that category. And so less and less funding is coming in. The implication of that is that you would want to really reach the 54 million Kenyans, but you're unable to.
Yeah.
And you may only reach an insignificant percentage. That is a big problem. We also have issues of insecurity. If today you wanted, for example, to go to do civic education in northeastern or other places that are prone to violence, like Baragoi, it's not possible for you. And those are the realities that we are facing currently. We are also facing the challenge of, like I said, the pedagogy. We realize that not many people can access our usual physical interaction, and therefore we need to go digital. That requires a lot of money as well. But that notwithstanding, we are also aware that there are places in this country that do not have connectivity, and therefore we still have to get them physically. So the dichotomy and the reality of that dichotomy is in itself a challenge. We are also facing another challenge of getting people who are marginalized. And when you look at marginalized, we previously it was just seen, okay, these are the small tribes, but no, marginalized in this case are also the urban people, the middle class. When people talk about civic education, we think about people in Turkana, Taveta, Migori, and whatever. But I'm talking about middle class here in Nairobi. They're just there. They just exchange greetings and addresses virtually, but they don't have opportunity to be actually taken through. So they can complain on their groups of why water is not in Karen or in South Sea or whatever, but they are not capacity built to actually solve that issue. And how do they engage with the political process so that they're able to make decisions when it comes to elections? We talk about LGBTQ, which are amongst us, but have been almost demonized. So they are not necessarily coming into the open. So how do we reach them? Because whether we like it or not, they're part and parcel of us. And so getting to them requires special skills, requires special pedagogy, requires special penetration abilities and all these things. So we are going then again to define minorities in several ways. Who are they? How do we reach them? What kind of message do they want? So all these put together brings out a huge challenge to civic education that we are constantly trying to figure out how do we adapt to these changes. Yeah.
So talking about reaching out to excluded groups like the youth, we've seen recently how the youth have come out in large numbers to try and champion for their rights. They actually they do a bit of they translated the finance bill. I don't know. Does that counts as efforts towards civic education, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So, what strategies do you find most effective when URAIA is engaging such groups, such as the youth, women, persons with disabilities? Yeah.
Well, first and foremost, they are a very critical part of our strategic framework, and we involve them as we design these programs going forward. We just need to constantly remind the young people, once again, that everybody has been young before. So it's not the first time the country is seeing young people. And it's not the last time the country is seeing young people. And so we have to take it with a great deal of critical analysis. Who are these young people? What do they want? And clearly, at a personal level, having reflected and thought through it, I think all what young people are crying for is justice. Justice in the sense that our national anthem is called, there is this stanza of justice be our shield and defender. So it means that if we don't have justice, we don't have a shield and we don't have a defender. And right now, young people feel like they don't have a shield and they don't have a defender. And they are in the street. So one thing that we have to address as a country is how do we make sure that young people feel part and parcel of this? This can only be done through rigorous civic education, but more importantly, through genuine leadership that can be associated, that can infuse confidence among the young people. Young people don't have that confidence right now, and we need to bring it back. But we do involve them in our design of our civic education. They are the ones that do the delivery, but we don't want to look at young people in isolation. We want to be specific in the way we approach them, but look at it in a wholesome nature so that we attract, because Kenya has got 54 million people, 40 million people are young people, but we still have got 14 million who are older people. And so they're all Kenyans as well. And we must take care of everybody. Ultimately, we just want a country where everybody does the right thing and everybody follows the constitution. So all what I've said is that the centerpiece for our country to move to the next stage will be the implementation of the new constitution and the citizens' desire to live it as well.
So lastly, maybe we can touch on disinformation when it comes to supporting civic education. So maybe some cases you've encountered and how you guys have handled that.
Disinformation?
Yes.
No, it's human nature to lie. I mean, it's not the first time we are seeing human beings lie. They began it in biblical times, and I'm sure even before biblical times. So human beings are averse in that. And one thing that we've done here in URAIA is to strengthen our communication department. We do appreciate that for you to progress to the next level as an institution, you must have a very strong communication department. That is really critical, so that at any given time, we are able to communicate properly. Anytime you communicate properly, we will have people who are hell-bent on communicating otherwise. Because status quo benefits a lot of people. Chaos benefits a lot of people. So when people hear that the communication that you're bringing is going to bring order, and they've been thriving in this order, naturally you'd expect some resistance. And so anytime we have our planning, we do our risk analysis, and disinformation and misinformation is a serious part of our risk analysis. And the only way to mitigate it is to make sure that the voices of the truth are always louder than the misinformation. Otherwise, we will be in heaven if we talk about removing misinformation and disinformation. Even right now, if you are in a relationship, there is somebody who is just waiting to get your attention so that they can tell you how bad your wife is or how bad your husband is. It's just human nature. But the only way we can do it is that you must be strong enough to say the truth and exhibit the truth in your actions, so that your truth, both in terms of action, deeds, and words, will be stronger than the disinformation and misinformation. And that can only happen if we strengthen our communication department. We are lucky because in URAIA we've got a very strong communication department who are on the lookout. The antennas are always up to ensure that the right things are said in the right manner to the right people. And if we find out that there's something else that needs to be corrected, it's done properly in a very professional way as well.
Thank you very much, Oliver.
It's my pleasure.
That was very well articulated and good. So my key takeaways here would be that civic education is the engine of democratic governance. It turns passive voters into active citizens. Also, strategic partnerships for Uraia and ILOG amplify civic impact and contribute to peaceful, credible elections. So as we wind up and leave you with a quote, the ballot speaks in the name of justice. In every village, voice, and the youth, education sows the seeds of truth. I've been your host, Denis Njonge Kariuki, and a big thanks to Oliver. And follow us on our social media platforms, X, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kutoka milimani, Bungani hadi pwani, Elogi inasimama kwa sauti huru.
Kwa uadilifu na haki, sisi tuko imara. Kenya mpya kwa matumaini ya dhati.
Kutoka kaskazini, kusini, mashariki na magharibi, tunajivunia Kenya, nchi ya matumaini. Kwa uadilifu na amani, sisi tunaimba kwa kusema elogo for credible, peaceful, free and fair elections.
Tunatoka kwa jamii, vikundi